Not every love story begins with two people looking for love. Sometimes it begins with two people who have almost given up on it. The hardest hearts aren't always the coldest. They're often the ones that have survived the most. And every once in a while, life places someone in your path, not to erase your past, but to prove your future doesn't have to look the same. Tonight's story isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about finding the courage to stay when leaving would be easier. So come a little closer, because this story might remind you that the strongest families aren't always the ones we're born into. Sometimes they're the ones we choose. The first time I met Adeline Brooks, she was 20 minutes late. She rushed into a small cafe in Savannah, Georgia, apologizing before she even sat down. "I'm so sorry. I almost canceled." She looked exhausted. Not the kind of tired a good night's sleep could fix. The kind people carry in their hearts. "I'm Mason," I smiled. "I know." She laughed nervously. "I've practiced saying hello about 50 times. That made me laugh too. For the next hour, nothing felt forced. She loved old bookstores. I collected vinyl records. She admitted pineapple didn't belong on pizza. I told her that opinion alone deserved a second date. For the first time in years, dating didn't feel like an interview. It felt like coming home. Then the waiter brought the check. Adeline's smile slowly disappeared. She folded her hands together. "There's something you should know." I nodded. "I have 2 kids. Silence. She looked down. "They're my whole world." Then she forced the smallest smile I'd ever seen. "So," she took a shaky breath, "if you're going to walk away..." This is usually the part where people do. I didn't know what to say, not because of her children, because I could hear how many times she'd had to say those words before. I paid the bill, walked her to her car. She thanked me politely, then drove away. That night, neither of us slept. She probably thought I'd disappear like everyone else. The truth was, I wasn't trying to decide whether I wanted a woman with 2 children. I was asking myself a different question. Was I ready to become part of a family that had already been through enough heartbreak? The next morning, I drove to the address she'd casually mentioned during dinner. I stood outside her little white house for almost 10 minutes before knocking. When the door opened, Adeline looked surprised. I thought... She stopped herself. "I know," I smiled gently. "You thought I wasn't coming back." She looked away. "I've been wrong before." Before I could answer, 2 little faces peeked from behind the hallway wall. A boy around 9, a little girl maybe 6, clutching a stuffed rabbit. They studied me like I was a stranger who might disappear at any moment. "I'm Mason," I said, kneeling to their height. The little girl whispered, "Mom says we don't have to call anyone Dad." My heart tightened. I smiled softly. "That's okay. I wasn't planning to ask you to." For the first time, the boy smiled. It wasn't big, but it was real. Over the next few months, I didn't try to impress them. I simply showed up. Saturday mornings became pancake mornings, even when half of them burned. I helped Ethan build a model rocket that exploded before it ever left the ground. Lily insisted I attend her school play, where she proudly played a sunflower with only 1 line. Afterward, she ran into my arms. "Did I do good? You were the brightest flower on that stage." She grinned so wide that everyone around us started smiling too. One rainy evening, while fixing a loose kitchen cabinet, Adeline quietly asked, "Why are you doing all this?" I looked up. "Doing what?" "You keep showing up." She swallowed hard. "You've never once acted like my children were a burden." I wiped my hands on a towel. "They're not. They're the best part of you." Tears filled her eyes. "No one's ever said that before." Winter arrived. So did Christmas. I stopped by with cookies I'd baked myself. They looked terrible. The kids laughed until they could barely breathe. "Mr. Mason," Ethan joked. "I think even Santa would send these back." We laughed together until tears rolled down our faces. Then Christmas morning came. The kids handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a simple keychain. On it were 4 tiny figures holding hands. The words underneath stole every breath I had. "Thank you for staying." I couldn't speak. Adeline quietly whispered, "They made it themselves." Lily walked over and slipped her tiny hand into mine. "You didn't leave." I knelt down, my eyes filling with tears. "No, I wasn't looking for the easiest life. I was looking for the right people. A year later, we returned to the same cafe where everything had begun. I reached across the table and held Adeline's hand. "Remember what you said that night?" She smiled sadly. "I have 2 kids, so you can walk away now." I nodded. "You were wrong." She looked at me. I wasn't walking away from 3 people. I was walking toward the family I'd been praying for. I placed a ring on the table. "Will all 3 of you spend forever with me?" She couldn't answer. She simply cried and nodded. Back at home, Ethan hugged me so tightly I almost lost my balance. Lily wrapped her little arms around my neck and whispered, "I think my heart knew you'd come back before my head did." There are moments in life that change you forever, not because they're loud, but because they quietly heal a part of you that had stopped believing. Love isn't measured by how quickly someone falls. It's measured by who stays when life becomes complicated. Children don't need perfect people. They need safe people. And sometimes the greatest gift we can give another